Welcome back to the Church for Entrepreneurs podcast. This episode of our podcast is a daily study. Daily studies are short Bible studies designed to help grow your faith. As you grow your faith, you're able to successfully achieve the calling that God's placed in your heart. Let's listen to the day's daily study. I want us to look at the last day of Jesus and the last hours of Jesus as a human being on the planet before he was crucified and he died and he rose. And we're going to look at this story through the lens of faith. Because when we think about faith, we think that faith is something that only we have to use as humans. But Jesus had to use faith as well. And we're going to see how Jesus used faith to overcome an obstacle that was really, really big. And we're going to take that lesson and apply it to our faith walk. First, let's reiterate what faith is. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So faith is looking into the future and seeing something that can happen or should happen, and you bringing it into the present. So when you have faith for something, it's that faith that allows you to see it, and your actions allows you to receive it. And so under that backdrop, let's get into the story. Our first scripture we're going to look at is Matthew 26:2. It says, "You know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified." So Jesus is setting this up. He's telling the disciples that, hey, in 2 days, I'm going to be betrayed and I'll be crucified. So Jesus knows exactly what's going to happen to him. Matthew 26:28-29 reads, "For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remissions of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom." Here again, we see that Jesus understands that he is going to die. His blood is going to be shed, but he's going to be some kind of way resurrected, and he's going to meet the disciples again in his Father's kingdom. So we see Jesus has full understanding of what's going down and what's going to happen after it goes down. Matthew 26:32. "But after I'm risen again, I will go before you in Galilee." So what he's saying is, after I'm raised from the dead, I'm going to go before you in Galilee. So basically what he's telling them is, look, I'm going to die, but I'll be resurrected. So he has clear understanding what that means. But now let's look at Matthew 26:38-42. This is right after he gave that speech about how he's going to be crucified, but don't worry, I'll be back speech. Kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I'll be back. Matthew 26:38-42 says, "Then he said unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry here and watch with me." He said that to Peter, James, and John. So he took Peter, James, and John away from everybody else, and he had just a moment of truth with them. He said, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry here and watch with me." That doesn't sound like a man full of confidence, right? That sounds like somebody knowing that something serious is about to take place. So Jesus put on a serious, brave face to the majority of the disciples. But to an inner circle, he let them know that, hey, what's about to go down is really serious, and my soul is exceedingly sorrowful. We're three parts. We're a spirit, a soul, and a body. And the soul is where your mind, your will, and emotions reside. So Jesus is saying, my mind, my will, and my emotions, they're extremely sorrowful, even unto death. Verse 39 says, "And he went a little further, and he fell on his face." Look, he fell on his face, and he prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt." Okay, look what Jesus said here. Jesus said, if it's possible, God, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will. So obviously, it's Jesus' will that this not happen, but it's the Father's will that it does happen. And so even though Jesus just gave that great speech about how I'm going to be risen again, I'll be back with you, and I'll be crucified, he didn't really want to do it. So sometimes with us and our vision, God gives us some vision sometimes. And at certain points, it may just get difficult and get tough. And you're going to be like, man, I just put on a brave face for everybody that's following me. But hey, I don't know if I really want to go through this. I don't even know if I really want to do this. But Jesus made a really quick recovery. He said, hey, nevertheless, not what I want to do, but what you want to do. So with your vision, what God's called to do, even when it gets tough, and you can be real with God. Look, this is behind closed doors. Like we getting a look at behind closed doors with Jesus and Daddy. He's saying, I don't know if I want to do this, Daddy, but nevertheless, because you want this, I'm going to do it. Verse 40 says, and he cometh unto his disciples and find them asleep, and said unto Peter, what, could you not watch for me for 1 hour? Watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. He's saying that because he knows that. He experiences that. He knows that his spirit is willing to do what the Father says, but he knows that his flesh is seriously weak in this area. So he went away again the second time, and he prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink of it, thy will be done. He really got himself together. He composed himself. And he prayed, he said, look, if this can't not happen, except I drink this cup, then your will be done. He's saying, look, God, I don't want to do it. This is going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. But I know this is the plan. This is the vision. This is what we've been talking about since eternity. So I'm going to do it. And so with your vision, you got to have that same rock solid faith that God, this is what you call me to do. This is tough. This is hard. People are talking about me, man. People are going to do this and this, but this is what you call me to do. So your will be done, because this is what you want me to do. Matthew 26, verses 52 through 54 reads, then Jesus said unto him, put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that taketh the sword shall perish with the sword. So the soldiers had come to get Jesus, and Peter had sliced off the ear of one of the soldiers. And he said to Peter, put away that sword. Verse 53 says, thinkest thou that I cannot pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that this must be? Look what Jesus just said. Jesus is about to be taken by the soldiers. And he's saying, look, I could call down a legion of angels right now. I can ask my Father for a legion of angels, and they would come and take me out of this thing. So what we see here is that even though this is God's will for Jesus to do, Jesus still has the power and authority to cancel this plan at any moment. He can say, God, you know what? I'm done. Come get me out of this thing. Jesus is not being forced to die for us. He's accepted this burden because he could at any moment just walk away from this thing. All right, let's look at Mark 15, verses 34 and 37. And this is when Jesus actually on the cross. At the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, all right, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but I'm going to try it anyway. Elo, Elo, lema sabachthani, which is being interpreted, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Think about what happened. He's on the cross. And for the first time, because he's been made sin, God turned his back on him. God left him. That actual phrase I wrote actually means, my God, why have you left me? So this is the first time in Jesus' all existence that he's been separated from the Father. This is the first time since creation. It's the first time since before creation. Jesus is separated from the Father for the first time ever. And what you hear in his voice here, and I'm going to use this word, this may sound like heresy, you hear fear. You hear fear because he has now been separated from the Father, and he is in unknown territory, very unknown territory. He's never experienced this before, right? Let's think about what happened to Adam and Eve. When Adam sinned, he said the eyes in was open, so his spirit was open. And then when God came looking for him, the first thing he did was he was afraid. He hid himself. So Jesus is separated from God, just like Adam got separated. And Jesus had that exact same emotion of fear that he cries out with a loud voice, my God, why have you left me? It's almost like Jesus forgot the plan, that God hadn't really left him. But it feels like it because this is the first time he's been separated from God. But what Jesus does is at this point, his faith kicks in, even though he's never seen this before. But he knows that him and God, we've talked about this. I know that I must die, and I know that I'll be risen from the dead. Some kind of way you're going to get me out of this. So in verse 37, it says, and Jesus cried with a loud voice and gave up the ghost. So what did Jesus cry? Let's look at Luke 23, verses 46. It reads, "And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, unto thy hands I commend my spirit. Having said thus, he gave up the ghost." So the last thing he said was, Father, into my hands I commend my spirit. So by faith, Jesus died believing that God was going to raise him from the dead. And so that word commend there, that means Jesus basically said, Father, into thy hands I've deposited for protection my spirit. Jesus is experiencing something that's never, ever, ever happened to him. And by faith, he's using faith to see something, and acting on the faith, gave up his spirit and deposited for protection into the Father. And we know that God held up his end of the bargain and got Jesus out of hell and brought him back to life. And the rest is history, right? Notice that even though Jesus feared at that critical moment, he immediately used his faith to get back on the plan, to get back on the direction, and get back to what God has said, and trusted God to hold his end of the bargain. Powerful stuff there for us to meditate on. That concludes today's daily study, and I pray that it was a blessing to you. Before we wrap up, if the Holy Spirit is speaking to your spirit to partner with Church for Entrepreneurs, go to churchforentrepreneurs.com/partner. Your partnership gives us the time and resources to minister to entrepreneurs around the world. Go to churchforentrepreneurs.com/partner. And if you want to connect with our ministry more, go to churchforentrepreneurs.com and join our online community. You guys be blessed, and I'll talk to you soon.